This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Andrew and enter promo code Andrew at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What's the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew here, and of course I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. We're in the new year. The 12th day of the new year, of the year 2016. Do you feel any different? Do you think we're in the future?
Mm-mm.
'Cause this is what I've been waiting for. This is our annual prediction show. Apparently we didn't do one last year, which baffles me that we didn't do one. I'm thinking maybe we did one in December. That could have been a possibility if John is listening. Right. If you could take a look in December, maybe we did it. But I like to, every year at the beginning of the year, I like to sit down with Paul and predict all the things that will not happen this year. All our high hopes.
Yeah.
All the things that we're really looking forward to.
So they can be done. Just by voicing my hopes.
Yeah.
I will be assured that they will never come true.
Yeah. So we're going to do that today. Plus, we're going to talk about some other things also. A lot to talk about, Paul. How you doing, though? How was your week?
It's been busy, actually. I assume not as busy as you, though. I know you have a...
You know what? It's not busy. It's just a lack of sleep thing going on.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what happens.
It's miserable, actually. Every hour you got to wake up and feed this thing and change the diaper and, just make sure everything's happening and make sure everything's fine. But when does it end, Paul? When does that end? Ever?
It doesn't.
When will I sleep again?
Yeah. Oh, when can you sleep again? So there's a couple of wonderful milestones you can look forward to. One is that, and this won't happen to you anytime soon, but eventually the child will be old enough or big enough, whatever, where she can get up on her own on a weekend day, and go downstairs or wherever, however your house is laid out, and get her own breakfast going and sit in front of the TV and watch TV, and you guys can sleep in on the weekend. And that's the most wonderful thing. Certainly by the time it happens, you'll be so appreciative of that. And then eventually she'll become a teenager, and there'll be new concerns, but there'll also be nice things about.
At what age does she start hating me? And I get
13.
that you're the worst, Dad.
My daughter, when she was younger, I was the funniest, greatest thing in the world, and now I am the biggest embarrassment imaginable.
I imagine that that's a tough thing. No, but
it's a tough transition for me. It seems to have been pretty seamless for her, but yeah.
The thing that's for me it's rough. I can't imagine how bad it is for Jess, because she has not slept at all whatsoever. Right. So it's it's a very tough time. She had a little bit of wine yesterday, which was great for her.
Yes.
She was really looking forward
Turning
to
alcohol is very normal at this point.
Yeah, she was really excited for that. Paul, we have so much to talk about, but before we do, I want to thank our sponsor, and that's Casper. I want to welcome Casper to 2016. They're joining us once again this year. Talking about a lack of sleep. Right now I'm not getting any sleep, but that's not because I sleep on a Casper mattress. Actually, one of the reasons why I'm actually able to fall asleep is because I'm on a Casper mattress. It's been almost exactly a year that I have been sleeping on a Casper mattress, and I have to tell you, it's the greatest bed that I've ever owned, and I'm not saying that because they're an advertiser. If they weren't, I would still tell you the same exact thing. I have a great deal for our audience, $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Andrew and entering the code Andrew at checkout. The thing that's awesome about them is it's latex and memory foam. The thing comes in a box. It's totally crushed together, and you're thinking to yourself, how good could a mattress be coming in a box? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's the best mattress I've ever had. I went from a major high-end mattress. It wasn't one that adjusts, but it was a very plush top mattress. It was a really high-end mattress. I absolutely hated this thing. I slept on it for 8 years, and I was miserable every single day. Got the Casper mattress, and no looking back for me. My entire family's been over, Paul, the whole entire week. Like every day, there's somebody over. And every time someone sits on the bed, they go, "Oh, what is this?" They're shocked at the mattress. And then I tell them the price, and they're amazed even more that this is a $1,000 mattress for a king. It's below that for a queen, obviously. And here's a great thing. They offer free delivery, painless returns with a 100-day period, so you can test it out. If it's in for you, it's not for you. And it's made in the USA. Casper.com/Andrew. Enter in promo code Andrew and get $50 off your purchase. Amazing mattress. I absolutely love them, and you should too. You should try them. If you're looking for a mattress, you know what? Give it a shot. 100 days. If you hate it, you could always return it. But it's, I'm telling you right now, best mattress I've ever had. Casper.com, guys. Thank you, Casper, for supporting What the Tuck. So, Paul, where do we begin on this list of hopes? Not really hopes. This year it's not really
actually,
hopes.
We should talk about 4K first because it's not actually on our list. But don't you sort of think, not so much that this year will be the year of 4K, but it's got to improve, right? It's got to get better.
I think for like Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, we're going to start seeing 4K content, original content. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get any network content that's in 4K immediately, maybe a couple things here and there. But the problem right now is even if you could watch 4K content, you have the bandwidth, you have the television, there's such a lack of content that is readily available to the mainstream public. There are ways to find 4K. There are very specific things you can watch in 4K. There are YouTube videos you can watch in 4K. But the majority of people want to watch TV shows in 4K or movies in 4K. Blu-ray now does 4K, which is great. That's a great step forward. But I don't see the cable providers doing 4K anytime soon. I really don't see any of them doing 4K content anytime soon. I don't know if you feel the same, but there's a lot of technicality that goes into the reason why we don't have 4K. Number one, it really has to do with the fact that these cable providers are maxed out on every bandwidth that they have. Every piece of every bit is being used up. They have a ton of SD channels, and even if they eliminated every SD channel, it would still be impossible to support as many 4K channels as they have HD.
Right.
So I don't know.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. But the thing is, we're in a really interesting period where you don't necessarily need to rely on the cable providers to get 4K content. And ABC has their own app, NBC has their own app, CBS, Fox, FX, HBO. So if they start doing their content in 4K and putting it exclusively on their internet, versions, their web version of their content that they provide to everybody, that's a lot of incentive for people to go online and watch it online or watch it on their set-top box instead of the cable provider.
Yeah.
CBS is doing, what is it, that all access thing, which is a couple of bucks a month? What if they said all our content, all our original content, every new show that we produce from 2016 on is going to be in 4K? I guarantee you a lot of people will sign up, even people that never considered it.
Sure.
I don't know. Where do you...
It's a lot like the beginning of the HD stuff to me. I mean, I think sports is going to be big eventually. Maybe we'll see some of that.
I don't know. I don't know. Where do you see it going? Do you see it making strides in 2016?
Yeah, I do. I don't think, but like I said earlier, I don't think it's the year of 4K. I think this is something that seems like it's on a slow boil for some reason.
Is the Super Bowl going to be in 4K this year?
I have no idea.
I don't think so. Anybody watching know? I doubt it. They say the Super Bowl is what measures when these sales go up.
Yeah. It seems like that would be one of the first big live events.
I know the Olympics did it the last time around, but I don't think anybody really was able to watch it at that point. But when the Olympics and when the Super Bowl is in 4K, that's when you're going to see, people really going out to buy these televisions. I just bought a brand new TV less than a year ago, and I have I went in there. People are like, how come you're not buying a 4K TV? You know what? I don't need one right now. It wasn't about the price. I bought a better 1080p TV than I would have, 4K TV, and it's great. Yep. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they're so disposable now. For $500, $600, you just move these things into another room, or you give it to somebody and you buy the new one. So I don't know. I don't think this is going to be the year for 4K. It really comes down. I think maybe next year, if they do the Super Bowl, that we'll see more of a push. But somebody just said it right now. There's also 8K content. So what are we going to do? We got 4K, and then we're going to go to 8K, and what's going to happen to all these channels that they just converted over?
Yep.
We're starting all over again.
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, once you get up to 4K and beyond, it's not going to be enough to bring over old content anymore. I mean, one of the things that you can do in the HD generation is we have a lot of film stuff, TV from the 80s or older, or movies from any time that can be converted to HD. It's going to be beautiful. The ability to convert to 4K, whatever comes past 4K, is basically non-existent, right? So there's not going to be as much of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, so the other argument that I saw, I think it was on AV Club. I could be wrong on the website, but I want to say it was AV Club. And it was a couple of months ago, there was this article about how most people, depending on where the television is located, they won't even see a difference between 1080 and 4K.
Oh, geez, really? Yeah.
Because of the distance, right? People aren't sitting at the suggested distance of their televisions.
Yep.
So if you're too close, you're not really going to see the difference in the quality of the picture. And most people are buying, my cousin just bought a 70-inch television, okay, which is obscenely too big. He has it in this tiny living room. You see the pixels. You're like this close to the TV. That person's never going to have a great experience with 4K. So
right, we're killing all of our time talking about something that's not going to happen.
I know. So we'll move on from this.
We really got to get off of this.
So we're going to do our predictions now, but that was our little bit on 4K. Listen, guys, send me your emails, guysfromqueens@gmail.com. I want to know what you guys think. If you have a 4K TV, let me know, because I don't know too many people that are having a great experience with it, because there's not a lot of content out there.
Yep.
So let's talk about our predictions. I'm going to go with my first one here, and I saw a post on Thurrott.com today where you had a very low-end PC, right? I think it's like $79, that thing.
Yep. Aimed at emerging markets.
Yeah. I mean,
you could buy one here.
We had the year of the netbook a couple of years ago, and everybody went out and bought a netbook, and everybody absolutely hated them 6 months after having them, or 3 months after having them. I think this year we're going to see a lot of these sub-$100 PCs or $150 PCs becoming a big deal. The Intel stick, what is it called? The compute stick?
The compute stick,
yeah. They just released their second generation one, which is a lot better, and it runs a lot quicker.
Yep.
We're going to start seeing a lot of that.
Kangaroo
this
PC.
Year. Which one?
Would fall in the Kangaroo.
Oh, the Kangaroo. Yeah, we're going to see all those things. I think it's going to be the year for those sub-$100 PCs. People are realizing it's more of an appliance now than a computer. Then it's not this expensive purchase for most people, unless you're buying a high-end laptop or a Mac. A lot of times people treat these things like appliances. They plug them in and they use it when they need to use it, and then if they need another one, they go and they buy another one next year for $100. I see that becoming a trend. What do you think about that?
I wonder, it's funny. The Kangaroo PC to me was the first kind of one that really got my head racing about the stuff. I mean, obviously I've seen the stick PCs before, but that was the first one where it's like, this is actually truly useful. And of course that one's really unique. It's got a battery. You can use it with an iPad as a screen and so forth. The Endless PC, which is the thing you're referring to, the sub $100 PC for emerging markets, is very interesting. Unfortunately, Microsoft's not part of it, so it's Linux-based. The really low-end versions, the two that are under $100, both run on like an ARM Cortex. Is it Cortex? Is that the name of the processor? Kind of an ARM based system. So it's not, it's not like an x86 kind of thing.
Yeah, look at this
although
thing.
there are versions. Yeah, they're really cute.
I mean, that's
really
an appliance, right? When you look at that thing.
Yep. And the thing I like about these machines, and actually I think this would apply to the Kangaroo, it would certainly apply to the compute stick and those kind of stick type computers as well, is they kind of harken back to the early days of the PC industry. Well, I shouldn't say the PC industry, the personal computing industry, like when Commodore and Atari and Apple and TI and Timex and all those companies were coming out with these boxes, and you would plug it into your TV at home, and that's how you would use it. And of course, the TVs we have now at home are so much more awesome than they were then, and of course, they're very high quality. In fact, would make for a great computer display in many cases. The only thing they don't have is a keyboard and a mouse, so you have to supply that kind of stuff. But I've always liked this kind of good enough approach to computing, the low cost aspect of it. I love the Endless thing for emerging markets. I think it's such a wonderful idea, and this notion of getting computer literacy out there really cheaply. And then, like you said, I think for established markets like the United States, Western Europe, whatever, not everyone has $700-800 to spend on a computer. I mean, sometimes even people who primarily use phones and tablets, every once in a while you want to sit down in front of a screen with a keyboard and a mouse and hammer out a term paper or whatever it might be, or print something, or something that just makes more sense or is easier on that kind of device. And so the ability to kind of augment whatever else you're doing, personal computing wise, with an actual computer and do so inexpensively that's pretty great. $100. It's crazy.
$100, yeah, it's great. I mean, that Intel one looks really interesting. The new one, I was reading about it and how well it's performing, surprisingly. And it's literally like a flash drive. It's a thumb drive. You just pop that thing into a TV or a monitor, and you're good to go. I'm shocked at the specs that I've seen and the reviews that I've heard about. From people that have actually had some hands-on experience with it. Some reviewers, they're very impressed. So
yeah, they did. I mean, they do the job. These are comparable to, a HP Steam laptop. Low end Atom based. The new ones have, I think you can get Core M in some of the newer ones. It's fine. For again, basic word processing, printing, whatever.
I got a question for you.
It works fine.
If we were to compare this to, obviously they're low end machines, right? These $100, $150 sticks. How does that compare to how do you compare it to like a mid-range computer from 3 years ago compared to this now? Would they be equivalent?
I mean, I have a hard time remembering. The problem with that kind of comparison is that processors have changed a lot. So when you look at like an Atom processor from 3 years ago, that was a terrible computer. But if you look at a mid-range computer, which is like an Intel Core i5, i5 something, that actually wasn't a terrible computer. It may not have been very good from a portable computer standpoint, like the battery life, whatever. I mean, that's the type of thing that's really been improved over the past couple of generations. But I think the thing that's most heartening about this, honestly, is that from a low end perspective, the low end used to really suck. You were talking about netbooks, for example. When netbooks were a thing and Atom based netbooks were a thing, like those computers they sucked. And you can still buy really low end devices that only have like a gig of RAM, very small amounts of storage. But if you can get up to 2 or ideally 4 gigs of RAM, and a newer I think it's called like Atom, like X7 type processor.
Yeah.
I can't remember how they're branding
X5,
these things.
X3, X7.
X5, X5, X7, or obviously a Core M, or if get up to an actual Core i chip as well. That's obviously ideal. But I think for most people these things do the job. Even for someone like me who writes for a living, if I write about Windows, so I actually need a Windows computer that does more than just, allow me to run Word. But as far as just writing, like if all I had to worry about was if I was writing about plants or cooking or health or something, any of these low-end computers would do the job. Any of them, I really wouldn't have massive resources, or wouldn't need massive resources. And these computers would be fine, all of these.
Yeah, my prediction is we're going to see a lot more of these go on the market and a lot more of these sell. I considered getting one, to be honest, the other day.
I mean, from a volume standpoint, this might be what I don't want to say saves, but it may be what allows the PC market to kind of continue.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to get back up to the heady days of 5 or 6 years ago. But
I don't think people are going into like a Best Buy and buying desktops like they did.
No, not necessarily. But again, I think we tend to overreact with technology, and I think in the sense that everyone went running to their phones and tablets and all that kind of stuff for a little while. It's not that stuff goes away. It's just that people kind of realize, well, okay, so maybe this thing's a little easier to do over here, or this thing's a little better to do with this type of machine. And I don't think a lot of if you've gone full blown tablet or phone, or if you're a kid in school or whatever, you don't have to spend $1,000 to get a good computer especially if you're only going to use it occasionally for very specific things.
Very cool. So what do you have, Paul?
What do I have? Let's do. Well, let's talk about VR, because I know I think we differ here based on what I'm saying.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, because I have that also listed, but I may have a different angle than you do.
Yeah. So obviously there's virtual reality, which I think everyone's pretty familiar with, and an augmented reality, which is a little more confusing. But both of them give us a way to sort of experience things that wouldn't otherwise be possible. VR is more of a kind of a traditional experience, especially if you're doing it to play video games and things like that. But I think the thing that really excites me about VR is that over the past year, through things like Google Cardboard, and then increasingly with the hard, the plastic, strap-on helmet type things, we're starting to see like Oculus Rift and the Samsung VR and the many, many other VR things that are coming down the road. we're seeing things that are not just for games, and that I think VR goes mainstream this coming year because we learned last year that VR can be very inexpensive and that it can be very exciting, not just for games. I've talked about this a little bit, but if Google Cardboard, it's $20, $30, whatever for this thing. You slip your phone into it. You can virtually tour any place on Earth right now using Google Street View. And this inexpensive little thing it's one of the most wonderful things I've ever done with technology. There are places that I haven't been in a while that I love, or places that I just love, like Paris, that I go a lot. And the ability to go and look at these places in a way that is so much better than, I don't care how big your TV screen is or how nice your phone is or whatever. To do this in a virtual reality way is amazing. It changes everything. And obviously that can only get better as far as, navigation and other things, but the experience is amazing. And it's a little bit like 4K, that you have to bring the content. The content has to come. Google Street View is kind of interesting because the content's already there. You can pull it forward from the Google data. And then, of course, they have special VR camera rigs that people are doing to do special Google VR type things. But I really think this is going to be a huge year for VR. And for many reasons. I mean, it will be big on gaming because of Oculus Rift. I think it's going to be big everywhere. I think this is the year of VR.
Yeah, so I'm critical on VR, but I'm critical for what it is right now at this very moment, right? With the VR that I tried. It's okay. It's not like mind-blowing. It's cool in the sense that it's working, right? It's not like this gimmick bogus thing that doesn't work. It works, but it doesn't work well. It doesn't work to the extent that it should be for a mainstream product. But with that said, Oculus Rift is doing some amazing stuff, and you hit on something really interesting here. You said it's really inexpensive. It is really inexpensive. Google Cardboard is like $20 you could do it, but if you go one step above for something a little better, you could buy that Samsung Gear VR, which is powered by Oculus. It's all software driven, and your phone is able to process everything. Technically, your phone is doing everything on this thing. So the fact that this is your VR headset, is amazing. You don't need another product. I don't know if VR is going to get to that point by the end of the year. My point is, I think augmented reality is going to become the big part of this. VR is the step forward, but augmented reality is going to be, AR is going to be what VR turns into.
I actually think these two things go forward separately. They both serve a different purpose. And I actually think that augmented reality has fewer real world implications than VR does. Or that's not really maybe the right way to say it, that there are fewer solutions that make sense for augmented reality as a mainstream solution than there are for VR.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that when it's done right, like it is with HoloLens, which is amazing, even despite the view issue, augmented reality tricks your brain, and it's astonishing to experience. And you see a hologram. That's what I mean. Like, in other words, there's something sitting on the table that's not really sitting there, and you can move around it from any direction, look up, down, whatever, and it never jitters, it never moves a little bit, it never glitches somewhat. It's there, and that makes it real to your brain, and it's real.
I forgot what you had told me. You had done both the prototype of HoloLens and like the demo model, right? You did both of them.
Yeah.
And you said that the experience with the prototype was way better.
Well, yes.
I could be putting words in your mouth, so I'm trying to remember what.
Well, no, but the last time I did it in, I guess it was early December
in New York.
I talked to the guys from the HoloLens team, and they said, as it turns out, the field of view hasn't changed between the early prototype and the more recent version. The actual device itself, where it's not tethered anymore. The difference is that once they got rid of all the tethering, you have a much wider field of view for your actual vision. Your peripheral vision suddenly is there, whereas before it was constrained. And so as a percentage of what you can see, the hologram, bit, the bit where you can see holograms, the field of view for the holograms, that rectangle in the middle, seems smaller because you can see so much more in every direction. The truth is it hasn't changed. So it's always been that small. It's just that before you were kind of constrained, and so it didn't seem that bad.
So here's a question for you. Sony's doing their own VR headset right now. Oculus is doing their own, and Microsoft has HoloLens. When these devices are implemented in their consoles, when Microsoft implements HoloLens into their console, it can't be really half-assed. You know what I mean?
I'd take it a step further and say they can't wait for HoloLens before they implement something in their console. Microsoft is already getting destroyed by PlayStation 4 in the console market. They need to have a VR solution for Xbox One this year.
Yeah.
If they don't, this is just another indication of it being over.
But you don't think that'll be
so short-sighted of them not to do VR as well?
You don't think that'll be an offspring of HoloLens?
I don't think we can wait that long. HoloLens is not going to be ready for holiday 2016 on Xbox One. I think, and by the way, I don't think it matters because the Xbox One is a video game solution, and the types of video games you can do with VR far exceed the types of video games you can do with AR. They should work on an AR, HoloLens, whatever you want to call it, for Xbox One. But they need to have VR as well. It needs to come out now. They can't wait. I think this is a big thing. Because VR naturally lends itself to video games.
Yeah, and Oculus beat both of them to the market. So, obviously Oculus has priced them. It's very niche and it's very, very specific people are buying it. But for Microsoft and PlayStation, this is just the next generation of the device. This is just, this is the extension of the life cycle for this generation console.
Look, I don't know that PlayStation VR is going to give PS4 another bump or whatever. But, when Microsoft came out with Kinect, which was actually pretty sad and stupid, that was a huge deal for Microsoft for at least a year, where they sold millions of additional consoles and millions of those Kinect add-ons.
Yeah. But nobody's
because everyone was so excited. Nobody's using it now.
Yeah.
I know that. I'm just saying, but Microsoft could certainly use that kind of artificial bump right now with Xbox One.
Yeah.
And ignoring virtual reality is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's just really stupid.
Well, it comes down to timing, right? If Microsoft times this and PlayStation times this appropriately, it could be a big step in the gaming market. But if Microsoft releases VR, 3 years from now, where we're closer to the end of the life cycle of the device, it's going to be another Kinect.
It's too late.
It's going to be too late for them.
It's too late.
If Kinect came out with the Xbox 360 on, a year or two into launch, we would be having a very different discussion right now about Kinect.
Yeah, I can't speculate.
But I'll speculate on that. But it really comes down to timing. Kinect worked well for what it was, but it was just timed wrong.
Well, the year it came out, it was the biggest thing in the world.
It did well, but long-term use, it didn't. I'm saying it was timed wrong because the new console was on its way. With the Xbox One, it was coming out, and at this point, it didn't really. It didn't. I mean, did it take off with the Xbox One? Not really, right?
No, not at all. In fact, to the tune that they have basically completely de-emphasized. It's like it's never happened.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, so let me pick one here. Since we're on the topic of the Xbox, kind of goes hand in hand here. I predict that they're going to announce a new model that's a little faster, smaller, and cooler. That's a little bit of.
I call this Xbox One S.
S. I saw that article, and I was going to say I cheated a little bit, and I read the article. But it does make sense, right? We're talking 2 years into the life cycle of this console. It is a big console.
Yep, too big.
It's a little big.
By the way, after we finish recording the podcast, I'm going to get up, pick up a backpack that's behind me, and I'm going to go over a friend's house, and we're going to play with a group of 10 or 12 guys or 14 guys, whatever it is. We're going to play it with the Xbox 360. That's what we do once a month. That would not work with an Xbox One. A, no one bought these things when they first came out because the Xbox One was too expensive. But B, the Xbox One is the size of a car. It's not portable, And I'm not, by the way, I'm not suggesting that portability is like tied to the success of the console, but it really, well, except that it kind of is. Obviously, in places like Japan, it's super important, or any place where it's really dense population. But compared to any component that I have out in my living room, the Xbox One is a factor of 100 times the size. Most of the devices I have in my living room are about this big. They're little set-top boxes.
So this is the imaginary Xbox that you have on Thurrott.com.
Yeah.
What it could possibly be. But you in this article, you talk about,
that's one way to do it. I mean, by the way, they could make it into a cube. I don't care. It just needs to be smaller.
Yeah.
Look, anyone who follows this industry even a little bit knows that over time, the pricing on components comes down. The components themselves improve, meaning they become smaller and cooler running and faster, like you said. The components are also combined. And so I don't know how the Xbox One is basically a big computer, but if you think about the CPU and the memory controller and all the little circuits and chips and so forth that are in there, over time, the manufacturers of these chips will come out with versions that combine 2, 3, 10, 5 of them, whatever, into one integrated system on a chip kind of a thing. And it allows Microsoft to buy these things at less of a cost and sell the resulting box at less of a cost. But the smallness of all this stuff as we go forward allows Microsoft to change the exterior of the box. They did it twice with the Xbox 360 over roughly a 7 or 8 year span. The current version of the Xbox 360 is, I wouldn't say significantly smaller than the original, but smaller. The S version was smaller, and then this one's smaller still. But it is significantly cooler, quieter, and more efficient and more cheap to make, which is the biggest deal because you're selling these things at a loss.
Okay, so let's talk about hypotheticals, right? Durango was Xbox One, right?
Yep.
Stingray was the redesigned Xbox 360. Then you had Yuma.
Right.
Is there any hope that this device will still exist for them? And does it need to exist?
I actually hope they don't make a Yuma.
I kind of do too, yeah.
A Yuma is Xbox One stripped of all the stuff that makes it play games. The high-end graphics, the high-end processor, all that kind of stuff. I do think Microsoft should ship an Apple TV type device. They can call it anything except Xbox anything because Xbox is no longer their general entertainment brand. Xbox is it is an entertainment brand, but it's really about gaming. They need a device that does Groove Music, that does their movie and TV service, and that does all the third-party stuff. And it needs to be a hockey puck. It needs to be fanless, silent, small, super cheap, under $100. I actually think that rather than make a Yuma, which is sort of like a pizza box stripped down Xbox One, they just need to take the existing Xbox One and make it smaller. However they do it, right? They can make it thin. They can make it, I don't care. Smaller, quieter, more efficient, and as important, much less expensive. And so, like for example, the entry level Xbox One today is about $349. It'd be nice if they could get it under $300 and have it, still make a profit. It's important for it to make sense for everybody. But I really think that the Xbox One will take off in a bigger way and will get repeat buyers, people who will replace their tank of an original Xbox One, or people who will augment it with a second Xbox One elsewhere in the house.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Xbox now, if they release let's say they released a Yuma, right? I don't disagree. I don't think that cutting all games is the way to go for this device. You could still call it an Xbox if you allowed certain types of games on there, like the Xbox arcade style, from the Xbox 360.
They don't really do that with the
lesser
Xbox
powerful games. I keep bringing up Castle Crashers. I know that's like a really old game, and I know that's like a really crappy reference.
That's Windows RT. It's something that looks like the real Xbox, but it doesn't run every game. You can't do that to people. People have said, well, why don't you make one that doesn't have the disk drive in it? That's a way to save a little bit of space, a little bit of money. I actually don't think that's a great idea. I think Blu-ray drives are commodities these days. I think someone like Microsoft, who manufactures millions of these things, could pick a Blu-ray drive up for pennies. Obviously, there's licensing involved with the codecs and all that stuff, but they're already licensing that stuff anyway. I mean, you're going to be able to play videos and whatever. I don't think that's where the savings are. And more important, because the Xbox is a full-featured entertainment package, video games plus entertainment, you can't strip out one of the bits of it. And from a game-playing perspective, you can't split out the major way that games are still deployed to these consoles. I happen to prefer to do the digital delivery thing. I don't think there should be a special console just for me, because there are so many people that want to buy the discs because maybe they want to resell the disc later. You buy a game, you play it for 5 days, you don't like it anymore, you finished it or whatever it is, and you want to realize a little bit of money back, sell it for half off or something, sell it a year down the road, whatever. It's your choice. If you can only buy games digitally, we don't have a way to sell those. So, and by the way, I think there should be a way to sell those, but right now there isn't. You can't remove that option unless they add a way, I guess. To
think of the money that
games.
Microsoft could make if they allowed you to put everything on the cloud and then sell it to somebody on the cloud, and they just take like $1 or $2.
Exactly.
They take a fair. They do all the
In other words,
processing.
the act of me selling you one of my games erases it from every one of my devices, and I no longer see it in the cloud. But perfect. It's a perfect scheme. You can sort of understand why game makers probably don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And so for that reason, I really think you have to leave the drive there. I'm personally probably never going to use it. I don't think I've ever actually installed an Xbox One game from disk.
So what do you? But the problem there is storage, right? So the fear is that you're going to run out of storage. If you have the 1 terabyte, how big are these games? Let me ask you that.
You know, some of them are humongous.
Like
some of them can be many tens of gigabytes. Some of them can be 100 plus. I probably have 6 to 8 games on my computer, my Xbox One. Some Call of Duty games. The last 3 Call of Duty games. I've got probably the Halo and the Gears of War packages are on there, and that might be about it. I think I have Alien Isolation on there. I'm a little unusual in that I don't really play a big variety of games. Yeah. But remember, this stuff's up in the cloud, and so the way Xbox One games work is you kind of stream them down to the console. After a little while, you can actually start playing it, and it keeps going in the background until it's all there. So it's not a complete off-on kind of thing. You can kind of get around it. And by the way, and I also appreciate. I think another argument to make for the disc thing is that some people just don't have the bandwidth to do this kind of thing, right? And in those cases, so what have you done? You've created a lower cost version of the Xbox One that will allow people to only buy digital games. But the very crowd of people that would only buy disc-based games, which, by the way, are often cheaper themselves, too, for whatever reason, can't afford the high-end version of the console, which is the one that is the only one that has the drive in it. It's completely reversed. Yeah. So I just really, I know people keep talking about this like they've solved it, the mystery of the universe. Like I don't think the Blu-ray drive is the key. I think it's the price of the component, the size of the box, and all that kind of stuff. And I think we get there. I agree with you. I think this year we're going to see a smaller Xbox One or some collection of hardware out of that group. We'll see what it looks like. But
that's one of the reasons why I've been waiting. I do think there's going to be a revamped version. And we could talk about the Xbox all day. I think you talk about the storage and the gaming and the problem. Now that with Windows 10 being universal and Windows 10 being on everything, why couldn't you store these games locally on your hard drive and computer? And when you need it, it just downloads it right directly to the device.
And I should say, I don't do this, but you can add external USB 3 hard drive. So a terabyte or 2 terabyte drive is under $100. You can get drives very cheap. So you could do that. I mean, it is an option. So if you have a lot of games and you always want them to be local, but the problem with the Xbox One of the many problems, I'm pointing at it, you can't actually see it. I can see it over here, but it's one of the problems with it is that despite its bulk, you can't do anything with that interior space. Like you can't add another hard drive in there. You can't take the hard drive out and swap it with a bigger hard drive like you could very easily do with the Xbox 360. It was one of the really neat things about that console. They really make it kind of hard. You have to add external storage to it. It's like that's just more stuff. It's like bigger, bulkier stuff, and it's too bad it's like that. Yeah.
So Paul, you pick one now. What's your second prediction of 2016?
Second? I mean, I'm kind of mixing. I'm jumping around.
Whatever you. I mean, you're.
This is actually. So I'm actually not sure. I'm predicting this will happen. This is almost like a wish list item. Okay. I just don't understand why this can't happen. And I've been thinking about this for a few years now. I think of it as date release of new movies at home. In other words, it's December, whatever day, December 18th, whatever day it was, and the new Star Wars movie comes out. And I want to see it. But I don't want to go to the theater to see it. I want to see it at home. And I understand that any number of people could be sitting in my home watching this. And so from the perspective of the movie theater or the movie distributor or whatever it is, they can't just sell me the movie, right? They have to, for the normal price.
Yeah.
It has to make sense for everybody. But for a movie like Star Wars, like I would say for most movies, like how much does a movie ticket cost now?
It depends on what you're seeing, but I know it's upwards of, depending on what theater and what kind of picture, it's like $18.
$18. Okay.
I mean, so you could go to like a matinee for like $10,
Okay. So for $50, a normal first run movie, I should be able to watch it at home the day it comes out for $50, one time only. No rewinding, no pausing, no any. It's just like going to the movies. Like I should be able to watch it and be done with it, and I never see it again. Should be able to do that. I understand there are privacy. I'm sorry, I should say piracy implications. I get it. I'm just saying I don't understand how this isn't possible today. A movie like Star Wars, like how much would you have paid? I don't know if you're a huge Star Wars fan, but like obviously a lot of people are. Day one, see the new Star Wars movie, but you see it at home. Don't have to go stand in line. And some people obviously love that, but I mean, I would pay like $100 for that. I would.
Yeah.
You know, and literally have it run through once, and I have no chance of pausing or anything. It's a movie. Treat it like a movie. That's the point. I'm paying for the convenience. I'm not going to go sit in traffic. I'm not going to go park the car. I'm not going to buy popcorn with stuff that's not butter. And I'm going to do this at home. And yes, I may have a crowd of people. Maybe there are maybe up to. I don't think I could fit 20 people in my living room, but I just wish this would happen. I really think, given all the technology today.
Well, I'll tell you something.
That should be
on
something
Fios. They tried this out about a year ago. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they had release. I think maybe it was like a week after it came out in the theaters on Fios, and I believe it was like $49 or $50 or $6. It was a high price. But
it was like a trial kind of thing.
But I totally agree with you. I'm willing to listen. I don't go to movie theaters, but that's because of my own obsessive compulsiveness and the filth that surrounds the chairs and everything. So I would much rather pay $60, $70, like you said, and watch Star Wars in my living room with two of my wife or my father or whoever. I would way more rather do that than actually go to the movie theater. I think the reality of this is that'll probably eventually happen, and you're going to see these huge box office numbers.
I would even take it a step further with Star Wars. I would through a service like iTunes, you could kind of picture this. I'm going to pre-order the movie Star Wars, so I'm going to own it at some point whenever that thing comes out in video. I'm going to own it, and that will probably cost $14.99 or $19.99 or whatever the price is. But I'm going to pay $100 for it, and I get to watch it once now. And then when that thing comes out, I get to own it. I have established that I am a customer of this thing. Like I don't understand. I just don't get why it's not happening.
Because you know what it is? It's the hoopla of it. They want you to line up in the movie theater, and they want the news to go out there.
But
it creates more.
But this I don't think this actually stops that. The types of people that want to do what I'm describing are not going to go to the theater. Like listen, there isn't a bigger Star Wars fan on earth than I am. I read the book the day that the movie came out instead of going to the movies. I saw it weeks later on a weekday night because I hate going to movies. I hate it. I hate how people talk. I hate how people look at their phones. I just don't like the whole thing. And there are movies that I would like to see when they're new, like that James Bond movie. I'm a huge fan of the James Bond movies. I own them all. I owned them all on DVD at one point, and now I own them all electronically. I would have seen Spectre the day it was available, but I would have seen it at home.
Yeah.
And I would have paid like $100 for that. I really would have.
Listen, I haven't gone to a movie theater since Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I was dragged to go see that. The movie before that was Austin Powers, the first one.
Jeez. Yeah, I don't see a lot of movies in the theater, but
I think they're gross.
I will say, obviously, we have nice theaters now with nice seats that recline, and they even have some that have like waiter service.
Yeah, they have booze and food. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, there are things that they have done to kind of attract back people like me. I think you could probably find movie theaters that don't allow children in or whatever, or there's all kinds of things you could do. But obviously with something like Star Wars, it's going to be like this multi-generational disaster. Like it's like the lower deck of the Titanic in there.
But you know what's amazing about a movie like Star Wars, right?
Yep.
They're probably going to have one of the best-selling Blu-ray sales of all time.
Yeah.
Even if you're given the option to stream it or watch on Blu-ray, I want to watch that on Blu-ray.
Right.
I mean, there's not too many movies that I own on Blu-ray. I own Batman on Blu-ray. I own an AC/DC concert on Blu-ray, and I'll probably own Star Wars on Blu-ray.
Right.
It's interesting. I agree with you. Verizon tried
I don't buy a lot of disc stuff. I bought the Star Wars movies on Blu-ray because they weren't available electronic. Now they are, so had that been the option, I would never have bought the disc, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right, Paul. I have a prediction here, and it most likely will not happen. But I'm going to be a little selfish here, and I'm going to hope that this does happen. I think Google will start updating Android quicker for flagship phones, and it's going to be one release, one sweep release, like an Apple product, and you're going to have it, and it's only going to be specific flagships, right? It's only going to be the ones that they work with, like the flagship HTC, the LG, and the Samsungs. I think we're going to get closer to having Google kind of streamline the way that they release Android to other phones other than Google Play, other than Google Experience.
This is a way to counter Microsoft or Apple?
Counter Apple. I mean, Microsoft is going to be able to do it with their new phones. So I think this is just going to be the future of the way that Google's going to be able to do this. Right now it's day one for certain phones, like the Google phones, right? The Nexus line. Yeah, they're going to have to expand beyond that. I'm hoping that this is the year that we see this. Do you think that's a possibility?
No. I think a more likely possibility is that Google learns from what Microsoft is doing with Windows 10 Mobile, and they adjust things accordingly with Android. Like, there needs to be a system on Android where if you don't mind kissing your warranty goodbye, which, let's face it, doesn't buy anything anyway, you can just be updated. I think a more important, that's not the right term. I think an equally valid thing that would be really neat to have on the Android side would be the ability to Nexusize your phone, kind of like you do it on a signature PC, where I don't want the Samsung image. I want the Google pure Nexus, Android 6.0 whatever image on there. I'd love to have that capability, because that would really open up the market for these devices for me personally, because I don't like the junk that other people put on these devices. But I don't know. It is an issue. It is an issue.
I was looking at some YouTube videos the other day, and I stumbled across why Samsung, I forgot the title. It's more like why Samsung isn't releasing the latest version of Android with their phone, right? Now, the real answer is, well, there's a number of reasons. One, the carriers, they're a total pain in the ass. Two, Samsung does not really want to upgrade every single device, because that prevents you from purchasing the latest and the greatest every single year. And it's more work for them to make sure that the ROM works, everything. And this guy's reasoning was, Samsung, when you buy a Samsung phone, you're buying it for the Samsung experience and not the Google experience. And he was defending this idea that, you have TouchWiz and that's what you're getting, and you have the Samsung keyboard and that's what you're getting.
One thing you don't see a lot of out in the world is Samsung enthusiasts. So I'm sure that's true in South Korea, maybe, but I don't think that's the. You don't think that's the way the world thinks.
You don't think on launch day for the S7, people are going to be standing online for hours to get a Samsung S7? You don't think that's happening, Paul?
I don't think that happens, does it?
I don't think so. No.
These phones sell very well, don't get me wrong, but that really doesn't happen. I mean, people don't. It's like the new Samsung's coming out, baby. I've been waiting for this one. I don't think that's a thing anymore. In fact, tied to this, on my list, I have this notion that I think Samsung loses first place this year.
To who?
Because I really think to Apple.
Okay.
In smartphones.
So for what reason?
First of all, Samsung's been going down for a while. There have been times where it always happens around the time of a big Apple product launch, where Apple comes closer or even exceeds Samsung briefly. There are two things that are going to happen in 2016 that I think are going to really help. One is just the continued decline of Samsung. I mean, there's that. But it looks like this is going to be the first year where Apple releases 2 upgrade cycles for the iPhone, meaning there are 2 iPhone releases this year at different times. Obviously, 2 releases ago, they had 2 new phones, for the first time ever. But it looks like in the spring, they're going to have an iPhone 5, whatever they call it, E, I've heard, whatever the name of it is, a smaller phone.
You don't think it's going to be it's not going to be an iPhone 7?
No, it's going to be, well, maybe they call it a 6. I don't know whatever they call it, but it's going to be a smaller phone. I don't think they're going to put a 7 on it.
Listen, just call it the iPhone. What if you call it the original iPhone or some nonsense?
All right, let's not worry about what they call it. No.
I want to spend the next 45 minutes coming up with a name.
Let's not worry about what they call it. That's not the important bit. The important bit is they're having a release in the spring, and then they're going to have the normal release in the fall. And I do think iPhone sales cool in the first half of the year, regardless. That's but I think that's going to be true across the board. When iPhone sales cool, that means smartphone sales cool. And then I think we're going to see another big thing in the fall. Yeah. So I think by the end of this year, they're number one.
I think this year's iPhone is going to have a lot of backlash if the rumor for the 3.5 millimeter jack being eliminated from their line. I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of backlash.
God, do they? But don't they just survive these things?
They do. They do. They always do.
This is a device. Who the hell has ever picked up an iPhone and said, "Wow, this thing's really chunky and fat. If only they could shave off a couple more millimeters." Stop.
Well, it comes down to licensing.
I don't know why they're doing this.
Yeah.
And people say things like, "Well, Paul, if you can do incredible high quality audio over this blah blah blah." Yeah, you could do it now. You don't need to get rid of the old port. You could do audio out of Lightning right now. Why would you get rid of them?
Why would you get rid of it?
And really, if you look at a phone, how is the Lightning port not bigger than a headphone jack? I don't get this. I don't get this rumor at all.
Because you know why? It's flat, right? It's flat inside. The jack is round, so you have to always compensate because it's round.
Look, I mean, they'll do what they do. They're Apple, but I don't see the need for it.
Oh, I see the need for Apple. I mean, I definitely see the need for Apple. You go and you buy the phone, and now they're going to sell you a headset because guess what? The only one that works is the one that comes with your phone. And how many times have you lost your headphones?
So if they were on some industry standard USB-C type connector, no problem.
Industry could change, yeah.
That's fine. Of course, the USB-C connector I think is bigger than Lightning anyway, so that's never going to work. The problem is it's Lightning. And then you get this have-not kind of thing going on, which I hate. I really don't like when they promote this thing. It's this type of thing. It's a, the Apple exclusivity thing is fine, but when it's just you're creating two. I have these Bose noise canceling headsets. I love them. When you buy this thing, you have to buy the Apple version or the other version. You have to make sure you get the right one. You know what I mean? Like they already have a special version for Apple. And it has to do with the remote controls for the audio playback and all that kind of stuff.
You know what the number one adapter is going to be? A 3.5 to Lightning port, Lightning jack adapter, Lightning port adapter.
It's to headphone jack. Yeah. It's like when you buy a MacBook, like the new MacBook, and then you need some kind of a dongle to plug anything into it because there are no USB-C peripherals anywhere. Even today, there still really aren't.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. To kind of compliment Apple here, they have one of the highest quality 3.5 audio jacks from any phone that I've ever used. I've done, we were doing a thing at the Microsoft store. Mary Jo Foley wanted me to record something, and we tried 3 different phones. We tried a Windows phone, we tried 2 Android phones, and we tried the iPhone, and the iPhone was the only one that didn't have a buzz. So, I mean, it's good quality. It's not like they're saying like, oh, this is crap, but use this one, Yeah. The point is, this is going to sell a lot of headphones for Apple. That's going to be paired with the iPhone.
How could selling headphones be a big concern for Apple? They make 90-something% of all of the industry profits as it is. Like what you're telling me that they need to, with the headphone sales are going to put
add another $40. Add another $40 for every 5 phones you sell.
I hope that's not what this is. That is so stupid. So stupid.
There's really no reason. I mean, the whole high quality audio thing. It's I know a little something about audio. Yeah, fine. You're going to be able to digitally process signals, and you're going to have all this stuff, but in reality, it's not necessary whatsoever. I know a lot of audiophiles will disagree with me, but I'm going to tell you right now, analog has worked tremendous for the last God knows how many years, 100 years, and it works really well. Analog works. Yeah. Listen, we have a digital system here. Everything we do here is digital, right? It's the exact same as what you would get with analog. It's just a little bit more convenient for me. So if anybody's going to tell you that the quality is going to be so much more superior than a 3.5 millimeter jack,
Andrew,
I could argue with them on that.
The iPhone user base uses the cheapest piece of crap earbud headphones in the world right now.
I love that, and that's the best part, right?
Seriously, You want to fix the audio on an iPhone? Just give them slightly better headphones. They would notice it.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. What do I have here? I'm going to go with, let's see. Here's one. Since we're on the iPhone topic. The iPhone 7 will be the best-selling phone of all time, of course. And they are going to start off with a 32 gig storage model. They're going to eliminate the 16 gig one. I think the last year or so has been a little eye-opening for Apple users and Apple themselves because they could not do a lot. How many people do you know that couldn't do the iOS update last year?
Oh, yeah. Well, well, this past year they made the iOS update smaller.
Well, but I'm talking, the
iOS 8 update.
Yeah, iOS 8 was a disaster in that sense because I'm telling you, I want to say majority of people walking around with an iPhone, they couldn't do the update because they had no storage.
Right.
They had no room to do the update. A lot of people are just walking around with the 16 gig model. And guys, we're not talking apps. We're talking text messages alone that are taking up 8 gigs of storage for a lot of people. People are just.
No, I have this problem on my my little iPad mini. In fact, I don't know if you saw this news story, but there was in the next version of iOS, they're adding like a night mode, which is that thing that takes the blue out of the light as the day, as it gets darker out, and it's much better for your sleeping rhythms and so on.
I had no idea.
I'm really looking forward to this. I
had no idea that one of my phones did this. My HTC Touch Pro, not HTC Touch Pro. Wow, what am I saying? Jeez, I just had like a stroke or something. Going back like 10 years. My OnePlus One. At night I was looking. I'm like, why is everything so yellow? I don't understand that. I'm like, is my display going? I couldn't figure it out at all. And then I realized that it has this, the dimming thing. It changes the colors based on the lighting in the room.
Yes. So anyway, iOS 9.3 is adding this feature. I really want to see this. So I went to download it, and I don't have enough space on my iPad to install it.
Amazing.
It's like...
Do you have a 16 gig or a 64 gig?
16.
Yeah.
I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Never doing it again.
Did you end up deleting it and deleting stuff? And
no, I haven't. I haven't had time to do it, so I don't know what to do. Like, I don't really have anything on this. It's all, well, of course I do have something. I mean, it's pretty much books and magazines and Kindle. Like, that's pretty much all I use it for. So, not really sure to where I go with this.
I don't know. I don't know about the multiple models though. I don't know what they're going to do with this.
Oh, they'll always have multiple models. That's how they get you.
But I can't predict, like, if we're going to talk names, like I can, who knows what they're going to call, do they need a 4-inch? I mean, do you think people are demanding a 4-inch version of the iPhone?
Yeah, I think there's an upgrade cycle they've missed out on, which is amazing, right? Because the iPhone 6S has sold so amazingly well. But I do think I see these out in the world all the time. I'm always amazed by this. I cannot believe how small iPhones are. These the 5 generation or older, how small they are. But I see them in the world all the time. And part of it, I think, is ignorance. I don't think people understand, especially here in the United States. When they bought that phone, they were on a 2-year contract. 2 years is up, and they're still paying for that phone, even though it's been paid off, and they don't know that that's what's happening. I think that's part of it. But part of it, I think, is there's some people who just like that form factor and want the smaller phone. And I think Apple's going to give it to them. So we'll see.
I know a lot of people that wanted that too, but once they upgraded to the iPhone 6, that all went out the window.
But Apple doesn't care what's good for them. The Apple, if this is what people want, they'll do it. And I do think there's a small percentage, that will still prefer that, and that's fine. There's no reason not to do it. And I would also say, if you think about the 6 and the 6S or the 6S Plus and the 6 Plus, those phones are actually smaller screened than most phones in that class, right? The normal iPhone 6S is a 4.7 inch, I think, as opposed to like a 5.2, which is more typical now for phones.
Yeah.
And the iPhone 6S Plus is 5.5 inches, whereas 5.7, it seems to be about the typical. It's not as big of a change, but it is kind of funny.
The 4.7 one is a little too small for me, and the 5.5 one is a little too big. So I'm in this, like, if I was going to buy an iPhone, I would probably end up going with the one that's way too big over the small one. But I don't know. That was my prediction. Paul, what do you pick? Let's do one more.
Yeah, what else we got here? So I think I'm going to do my, I've railed against the selfie stick. I think this year I'm going to be railing against drones. I think drones. There's so many drones out in this country, especially, and probably around the world. I think it's only a matter of time before one of these things crashes into a human being in a crowd and hurts or even kills somebody. Seriously,
and you're talking about the big ones. You're not talking about, the $100 toy ones that everybody got for Christmas. You're talking, the big deal.
Well, whatever. I mean, I'm talking about any drone that a human being can buy and for some reason just fly it around the neighborhood. Hopefully, pumping Cry the Valkyries out of the speaker as they go. I think this is something that is going to have to be legislated. And there's been a little bit of it. They're asking people to kind of, register their drones or whatever right now. This is going to be a serious privacy issue, but I think it's going to be a serious safety issue. And so obviously we're going to have the situations where you're sitting in your home and you hear a sound outside and you look and there's a little thing flying out in your yard. And at that point, I would say just as a homeowner, if it's in your airspace, you probably have the right to destroy it. But
they have anti-drone weapons now. It just hits like a radio frequency.
I desperately want to get something that is anti-drone, but actually I'm looking forward to getting my own drone. It is something I want to kind of play around with, especially for photography. But in the same, if you've been out in the world and you've seen selfie sticks and how terrible and how broken they are, and just how annoying those people are. Imagine how much worse it would be if half of those people had drones. Like you wouldn't be able to enjoy any place quietly. It would just it's going to get bad. I think this is something they're going to have to legislate. So I think something bad happens this year with the drone.
I have mixed feelings about the drone thing. I think they're cool. I think it's for photography reasons, like you said. It's pretty awesome. You can make these cool videos. But one of my neighbors just got one, and this thing, Paul, I'm not talking like a little device. I'm talking this thing is like this. It's like a model airplane, and it's humongous. First of all, and I'm like, if this thing malfunctions, right, and it just falls from the sky, and this thing is over the highway, that's going to cause, someone's going to die if this thing falls on your car. And then what do? What happens then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not this tiny little thing. I know that most of them, when they start, the battery dies or something on them, they run out of gas, they start slowly hovering down so you can bring it forward. But these are consumer devices, most of these. And what's going to happen when it just crashes in the middle of the Long Island Expressway? Yep. Onto a semi, onto a Mack truck, and the Mack truck veers off, goes off its lane, murdered, kills 20 people on the highway.
You're really getting off of these.
That's what's going to happen one day.
It's like this story of death and destruction. But we live near a TV station, and they send up this helicopter that looks at the traffic. You can imagine how much cheaper it would be for them to have like I don't know what you call this, like an industrial.
Yeah, they do that here in
something.
New York. Yeah, they do that here now. They have a professional drone. They just bring that over the highway, so over the accident site.
But it's only a matter of time before that kind of thing crashes. Into traffic, like you said. But I really think it's the proliferation of drones among the general population is what's going to be the problem. Because look, you could throw a rock over a bridge and hit a car and you could cause a major accident. It could be a little teeny thing. It doesn't have to be like a missile shot from space. Yeah. All kinds of things could cause huge problems.
I'm looking at this video here now. Someone in our chat posted this, a skier. So it's like a skiing competition. And this drone, I guess, is filming him, and the thing just drops right out of the sky, nearly hits the skier by this much.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know.
Sure.
Ban all drones. You know what? Ban all drones and ban the selfie sticks.
It's going to be like a guy skiing down a mountain with one of those drones that follows you however you go.
Yeah.
And it's going to be causing mayhem. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a problem this year.
Ichu says, drone crashes into a nuclear silo. It causes a horrible, horrible accident, ends the world, and we're all dead. That's it.
Sure.
It's over. End of the world. I'm going to pick my last prediction of the day, and it's going to be that BlackBerry's going to make a comeback. No, it's not. BlackBerry will be bought by... you know what? I'm going to pick... BlackBerry's going to be bought by a no-name company that we have never heard of.
Yep. It's going to be called Amiga Incorporated.
Amiga Inc. I actually have a picture somebody showed me on Facebook. It's the Mac PC and an Amiga. Like the Mac guy and the PC guy. And the Amiga guy is like this like devil worshiper.
Yep.
That was my prediction. You have a couple more. You want to just go through them really quickly? You might have one more.
Yeah, which ones haven't I done? So I think Windows Phone is going to crater this year. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see it hit 1% market share, and that's going to lead to Microsoft expanding their Android push. And I think that the natural culmination of their work, aside from all the integration stuff they're doing on the Android platform, is going to be when they bring universal app support to the Android platform. I just don't see how they can't do it. It's about I also think at some point in 2016, Microsoft is going to announce that they're halfway to their goal of having 1 billion Windows 10 devices. So that means sometime in calendar year 2016, 500 million active Windows 10 devices. I think that's going to happen either by the anniversary, July 29th, or the year end.
So what are we at right now? Do you know?
They just announced 200.
200. I thought it was 250. Yeah. Okay, so they're probably at 250 now. Do we know what the Windows 7 number was?
Well, yeah. So the Windows 7 number is artificial, right? And so they, with the exception of the first couple of months, it was basically 20 million units per month. It wasn't usage though. This is like unit sale. It's like license sales. So it's kind of hard to say. But I would just get. I mean, you could do the math on this. I mean, 20 times. I mean, how long has it been out? August through. Now it's 6 months. Not quite 5 months. 5 months. 6 months. 5 months. They would be at about half.
Okay. I mean, 1 billion is tremendous, right? I mean, 500 million is tremendous. They've made great strides at pushing this forward really aggressively.
When they said the goal of 1 billion, I think they said that kind of knowing they were going to be able to do it,
Yeah.
And I think they're going to do it more quickly than they've said, and I think that's part of the
if they keep doing what they've done in the past, like my computer that automatically just updated, they could get there really quick.
Yep.
And the confusing updates, like, hey, do you want to update now or later? But later means like when you restart.
Right.
Listen, for most people, you please upgrade to Windows 10 because it's the best version of Windows they've ever made. If you are like me and you have a very specific driver that will not work, stay away from it. Don't go to it. All right, Paul. That was our predictions, guys. We're gonna do a post show. We're gonna do a wrap up show. We're gonna hang out a little bit more and talk about the new year. That's gonna be our bonus show. We record it live each and every week, and it's exclusive on Patreon.com/whatthetech. You can view it by funding the program, funding the show. Patreon.com/whatthetech. We accept everything you want to donate. If you're watching live, stay tuned. We're gonna air it. We're not cutting our feed or anything. Everybody can watch it. Patreon.com/whatthetech. Also, if you want to help the GFQ network out, we have to do some more upgrades here. We just had a server crash. Suncast in our chat room. He manages everything, and 2 of our hard drives died, so we had to go and order 2 hard drives from him, and we did that through our Amazon link from all the credits that we've built up over the last couple of months. So thank you for everybody that's buying stuff using our Amazon link. gfq.co/Amazon. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. You can follow Paul at therot.com, all things Paul. Everything Paul wants to talk about is on there.
Not everything, but...
Well, I'm sure there's... everything that has to do with tech. Yeah, you know what?
My love of 1970s boy bands has not been covered thoroughly on my site yet.
Not a fan of the Monkees, Paul? You're not doing a Monkees blog? I would love that. I would love a post on therot.com about the Monkees. Guys, also subscribe to the podcast. We're everywhere podcasts are available. And that's it for this week. See y'all later.